was told that CPS did get in contact with Miss Gypsy. So,
let me spill some tea for you, gypsy-rose gossip style. So, we've got some buzz that I couldn't resist sharing. Now, I know some of y'all might not vibe with the source of this info, but hear me out. I believe her, and I'll get to why I think she's credible later on. Here's the rundown. There's this TikTok and YouTube creator who goes by Ivory Rose Grows Wild. She's based in the Bayou, which, as you know, is the same area where Gypsy Rose lives. According to Ivory, Child Protective Services, CPS, is now involved in Gypsy's life. The thing is, it's unclear whether CPS got involved because people have been calling on Gypsy, or if this is just standard protocol since she's still on parole. Let's not forget, Gypsy's parole stems from her role in the tragic case involving her mother. Regardless, CPS is now on the scene, and that's where the drama gets even messier.
And I wouldn't know that if it wouldn't be for somebody running their mouth.
Here's where it gets juicy. Ivory claims she knows about this because someone's been running their mouth, and she strongly hints that the culprit is none other than Christy Blanchard. Now, this is interesting because Ivory isn't the only one spilling this tea. Katie Joyce, yeah, I know, she's another controversial source, has also said Christy has been talking about authorities being involved when Gypsy gives birth. Two separate people saying the same thing about Christy being loose-lipped? It's hard to ignore that pattern. Apparently, Christy's been telling people that CPS, or DCS, depending on who you ask, will be present when Gypsy's baby is born. She's even allegedly claiming she's going to be the one taking care of Gypsy's baby. Spicy, right? Now, before you come for me, let me just say I'm not out here taking everything Ivory says as gospel. You've got to take everything on the internet with a grain of salt.
I don't think they went and did a whole stop by at the house, check things out, all kinds of stuff.
That said, I do believe her to an extent because some of her previous claims have turned out to be true. And for those questioning if she even lives in the bayou, she recently posted a video in the snow which matches the current weather there. So yeah, she's legit. Let's rewind a bit to Gypsy herself. This CPS chatter isn't entirely new. A while back, Gypsy took to her social media to issue a warning to anyone planning to report her to CPS, reminding them that making a false CPS report is illegal. She even included some receipts, saying that knowingly filing a false report with the intent to deceive
her baby. I've already said it's a girl. But the due date is not January. The due date is not November.
Is a crime that could result in fines, jail time, or both. In Louisiana, where she's at, false reports can lead to imprisonment for up to 5 years, fines of up to $1,000, or both. Gypsy mentioned that if false allegations are proven, the accuser could also face civil lawsuits for defamation, malicious prosecution, or emotional distress. She wasn't playing around. It's also worth noting that Gypsy posted those warnings about false CPS reports just days after Katie Joy started making waves with her claims. Katie has been vocal about Gypsy's parental situation, posting on her Instagram that Gypsy's dream of building a happy family with her boyfriend Ken is unrealistic due to child custody laws in Louisiana. According to Katie, Gypsy's conviction for homicide makes her ineligible to have custody of a child under state law.
Christy is out here telling people that she thinks the baby's gonna come early in December. I just know it. Come on.
Katie even took things a step further by consulting with two women who have extensive experience in this area, one with over a decade of working with inmate reentry programs in Texas and Louisiana, and another from Lafourche Parish who has dealt directly with DCS, Department of Child Services. And let me tell you, the news isn't looking good for Gypsy. Lafourche Parish DCS is reportedly very strict when it comes to protecting children born to individuals on parole for violent crimes. Here's what's being said. When someone with a homicide conviction involving a family member gives birth, the doctor is required to report the baby as an at-risk child. That's because under Louisiana law, a conviction like Gypsy's could lead to an automatic termination of parental rights. To even have a chance at keeping her baby, Gypsy would likely have to undergo a full neuropsychological evaluation, as would Ken. But even then, the odds don't seem to be in their favor. Gypsy's history of manipulation, fraud, and her role in her mother's death could easily lead the courts to deem her unfit as a parent.
That's crazy, right?
Y'all remember that one? That's from July 30th. Where Krusty Krab was running.
And Ken? If he manages to pass the DCS investigation, he still wouldn't be allowed to live with Gypsy while raising the baby. Most courts in these cases also prohibit convicted individuals like Gypsy from having any contact with their child. If Gypsy and Ken were to split, a judge could automatically revoke Gypsy's rights under Louisiana's. And get this, anyone in Gypsy's family, whether it's an aunt, uncle, or sibling, could file an emergency petition to have the baby removed from her care. In some cases, DCS might even suggest that Gypsy voluntarily give up her parental rights to a family member to avoid a messy legal battle. That could mean Gypsy might have to give up her baby just to avoid further complications.
No, saying the baby was due in December, and I posted about it on July 30th.
Now let's circle back to Katie Joy's post. After she shared all this, a TikTok creator named Reality TV with Ray picked it up, and things got even spicier. Gypsy herself jumped into the comments to deny the claims, saying she confirmed with her attorney that even as a felon, they can't take her baby away without cause. Under that same post, Katie clapped back, insisting her information wasn't false, and doubling down on her claim that Christy Blanchard told her Gypsy's baby's birth. Let's not forget the timing of all this. Gypsy's warnings about false CPS reports came shortly after Katie Joy's post started gaining traction. Coincidence? I think not. By calling out the legality of making false reports, Gypsy may have been trying to protect herself from what she saw as an impending storm. And honestly, who can blame her?
Yeah. And look, the baby was born in December 28th.
The internet can be a ruthless place, and the idea of strangers meddling in your personal life would put anyone on edge. Still, her public statements have only added more fuel to the fire. Instead of quelling the rumors, they've made people even more curious about what's really going on behind the scenes. One thing that keeps coming up is the idea that Gypsy is technically still under custody because of her parole status. This argument has been making the rounds online, with people questioning how someone who isn't fully free can be trusted to care for a child. It's a harsh take, but it's one that's gaining traction. If CPS does decide to step in, they'll likely use Gypsy's parole status as a key factor in their decision-making process. And then there's the issue of her family. Any one of them could file an emergency petition to take custody of the baby. Imagine the drama if that happens.
Told y'all. Bye, besties. Have a good day. Oh, and one more thing. It looks like my Bayou tea ain't full of shit after all, right?
Gypsy has already had a complicated relationship with her family, and this would only make things messier. Here's where it gets tricky. With all this conflicting information floating around, it's hard to pin down exactly what's happening behind the scenes. Still, a lot of people online have been commenting, saying they believe the baby should be taken away from Gypsy. The most common argument? They question how someone who committed such a violent act against their own mother could be trusted to raise. Others point out that Gypsy is technically still under custody herself, being on parole, and argue that someone who doesn't even have full autonomy over their own life shouldn't be allowed to have custody of a baby. So, will CPS take Gypsy's baby, or will they let her prove herself as a mother? That remains to be seen, and you can bet this story is far from over. But before I wrap up, let me just say this. Christy spilling Gypsy's business to anyone and everyone is definitely not helping her situation. Sometimes, silence really is golden. Let me know what you think about all this drama. Thanks for tuning in today, and don't forget to stay connected for more updates on this wild ride.